plan, which I have a whole, see, I don't know how to do this. Previous. A 36 to convert touch plan, which I have some fun extra little bonus materials for you that I like to use with my agents. So I have those that I will have emailed out later, but we'll talk about them today. Design and use MOFR messages that generate interest. Develop a strategy to grow the number of contacts in your database. So let's talk about this. What mindset do we need to have to successfully nurture our relationships with our contacts? So people say that people will work with the agent whose emotional proximity to them is the strongest at the time that they are ready to transact. In other words, people will choose the agent that they have a relationship with when they are ready to make a move. So those people that you are contacting regularly and keeping in touch with, when they make that decision, who is going to be top of mind? The goal is it's you, right? If it's not you, then it should be. So if you're not keeping in touch with those database people, we want to make sure that when they make that decision, because we never know what that is, we can't control when the moment is that they decide they're going to make a move, whether it's a buyer or a seller or an investor. We have no control over that. What we do have control of is what our proximity to them is and how often we're keeping in touch with them and keeping that emotional proximity to them. So, all right, so let's talk about this. This is from the book Shift by Gary Keller. Has everybody read that book, I hope? If you have not read that book or you don't own that book, get it. It is a huge wealth of knowledge in that book. Pretty much anything by Gary Keller. If it says by Gary Keller, get that book. Have that book on your shelf and make sure you have read it at least once, if not twice. I am a big fan of an audiobook. So I take my paper book and use that kind of like a workbook and listen to the book as I go through so that I can highlight as I go. Because a lot of it has graphs and different things on how to do business and what works and what doesn't work. So having that is there. So but one of the quotes in that Shift book is know that growth comes from clarity, priorities, and focused action. So today we're going to talk about that action and we're going to work on getting into action. All right. So on page 12.3 of your participant guide, you should see this graph. Have we seen this graph yet? Yes, we've seen this graph already a few times.
Yes.
All right. Good, good. So we're going to work on this graph and how do we get those leads to move from the left side to the right side and going from leads, creating relationships, and making them a contact at that point. This is the lead generation and database model. You've worked on the tools to convert leads, like the 19 touch, 19 to convert and those types of things. You've heard those stats before. We're going to talk about those a little bit more and in depth. Does anybody remember how we define the difference between a lead and a contact?
A lead would be someone that you just kind of get in, just say from like a Facebook ad or something like that, and you may be dripping on them, but you haven't spoken to them versus a contact you've spoken to and gotten some information and they can actually recall your name if you call them back.
Okay. That's a very clear definition. Would everybody agree that that's the definition or the difference between a lead and a contact? Yeah. And that's our goal, right? So today is about strengthening the relationships to turn those leads into contacts. So that's our focus for the day. The other part about contacts that's different too is that they are people that you have a two-way conversation with, right? A lead, although you may have met them, they could be somebody you have met at an open house. They could have been somebody you met at a grocery store that you have spoken to at least once. They probably aren't somebody you're in a conversation with or in what would be considered a relationship back and forth with. So we're trying to make that difference. Typically, we have more information about our contacts that allows us to design our follow-up program to align with their needs and their interests. So you're going to have hopefully more information. You know, one of the things that I always tell people, they ask, well, if I just put the name in my database, does that count as a contact or a lead or somebody in my database? No, And I would even go so far as to say, if you don't have two ways to connect with them, then it probably also doesn't count as a contact in your database. If you've only got a Facebook connection, probably not the best two-way conversation, right? But if you have an email and a phone number, you have multiple ways of getting in touch with those people. So having at least two forms of contact information to have that relationship with, in my book of thought process, when I'm counting people in my database, if I don't have two, they don't count. That's my opinion. Take it as you will, but that's what I would tell people, and that's would be my recommendation. With a lead, you have the person's name and maybe a way to contact them, maybe a way to text them. However, you're probably not in their phone, so if you called them, they're not going to know who you are, right? Um, so when we connect and we know more about them, we know how to help them better. We know, oh, you have families, you like to host Thanksgiving dinner, so maybe you need a dining room, a formal dining room, or you like to entertain, so you need a big deck in a yard or something along those lines. So when you start learning about people's lifestyle, that creates the relationship and you know how to help them better. All right. We're going to remember our third C in our Y4C2TEs. That's communication. Seek first to understand. That is a key in this process, is understanding. If you're just spewing information to someone and not listening to what they say back, you're not really getting anywhere, right? If you're just saying, oh, well, I'm going to do, like, especially if you're going on a listing or a buyer's presentation and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And all they want to know is who's your photographer, right? If you're not actually listening to what they have to say, you're not going to create that bond in that relationship. Does that make sense? So everybody, that's part of the goal of this strengthening relationships is the communication. And communication, if you've ever been in a marriage or a relationship with somebody else, should be and is a two-way street. So remember that when you're talking to your clients, allow them to ask questions, allow them to, give information so that you can better serve them, right? If you're showing a house and you say, oh, look at this great deck in the backyard and all of this, and you weren't paying attention when they said they're allergic to the entire outside world, they probably could care less about that deck. So now you're giving them information they don't actually need. So make sure when you're having that relationship, you listen so that you can give them information back. All right. This has the definition of your leads and your contacts. Staying engaged in that two-way conversation and making it a value-based relationship is the key to creating the contact versus just a stranger and a lead. A book from a top KW agent in 2018 says, focus on building relationships and take market share. The more relationships you have, does everybody know what market share means? Yes, no, maybe. Market share is kind of that, how much of the market are you going to take? There is a whole piece of the puzzle, right? All of your market, wherever you live, is the full circle. How big is your piece of that pie? That is your market share. And one of my favorite quotes, and I don't even remember who said it, was go and get your unfair share of the market. Go get a bigger piece of that pie. Go get what nobody else has, right? So go get that out there. All right, so let's start with mindset. Today's conversation is going to be tomorrow's transaction. As you build that relationship and you establish that mindset around your contacts, your database. So think about it as a garden. This is the analogy. This is why they've got a little watering can in there. So your database is a garden. When you have your leads, there's little seeds that are out there in your garden. You're planting little seeds, little seeds, little seeds everywhere. The more you water it, the more they will grow. They don't always, if you've ever had a garden, grow at the same pace. You may give them the exact same amount of water or the exact same amount of sunshine. They don't all grow at the same speed. Okay, some grow faster and slower. the exact same thing with your contacts in your database. Some will turn into a transaction sooner versus later. Some will, wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. So the idea is that if you stop watering, you stop lead generating, you stop feeding into your database, your garden will die and your leads will disappear and they will not be a part of your future transactions. If someone unsubscribes from an email campaign, should you still send mailers? I would probably call him. Belinda, is what I would do. If somebody unsubscribed from my email, I would probably reach out on the phone and say, hey, I noticed you unsubscribed from my email. Maybe were you getting too many? Was the information not valuable? Find out why, because it may be that they just don't want 20 emails a week. Maybe they only want one a month. Maybe that's, the difference, right? But if you just keep bombarding them with information and not getting that feedback about why they unsubscribed, then I would say, then you wouldn't have any idea because otherwise you're wasting money sending mailers if they've hired another agent or if they don't want to hear from you anymore for whatever the reason. So, it's the initial email from a farm list. Yeah, that happens. Sometimes maybe they're on 20 different farm lists, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. They may be on 20 different farm lists and like, yeah, no, that's too much. I don't want to hear it. And maybe they'll say, yeah, send me mailers. Maybe they'll say, no, don't talk to me again. But until you know, or you actually have the conversation, you have no idea in that regard. All right. So what do you think about the expression on the slide that today's conversation is tomorrow's transaction? How does it affect your mindset? Does everybody understand the analogy of the garden and your database and where that's going to go? Anybody have any ahas or thoughts or ideas around that concept?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty obvious, but some
For
people
me,
don't understand it until you hear it. So how do you make sure that you will have a harvest long enough to fund your big life? Anybody got any ideas or theories on what you can do to harvest your garden for a long term and for your big life, for your future?
Definitely got to talk to people.
it would have, well, the process.
No, keep
Go ahead.
going. Keep going.
Sorry, both of us. Go ahead, Thomas.
No, I was just going to say you maintain that connection.
Mm-hmm.
After a sale, it's that continuation. It's that staying in front, and be it generational or multiple options, but just maintaining that contact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you have already done session 11, right? It talks about follow-up. Yeah, we talked about connecting with the leads to uncover their motivations and gain information to ultimately make an appointment, etc. So you've had that conversation. All right. Any other thoughts on that? All right. Again, Gary Keller, Shift Book, page 81. Once you meet your new contacts, you either do business with them immediately or you don't. Either way, once you have met them and you put them in your database and stay in touch with them forever, or until they take out the restraining order, as my broker once said. He says, we just keep talking to them forever, or until the restraining order comes out, right? This is that second C of our Y4C2TEs in action. It's the commitment in all things, being committed to that process, trying to keep in touch with someone. For example, I was a big open house person. That was how I built my business, was through open houses, and that was my lead gen, and I got really good at the follow-up of that. And staying connected with those people was how I grew my business. If you were to say contact them for a month and they don't buy a house with you, well, okay, they're not ready. Doesn't mean you should stop unless they took out the restraining order, but it doesn't mean you should stop, right? You should continue to keep going because, again, that emotional proximity, you want to be the person they think of the moment they decide that they're going to change their life and make a move, whatever that is. So if you stop, you might stop 30 days before they make that decision, and somebody else just happened to send that email or make that phone call, and now you're out of the work. Now you're out of the loop. So you want to make sure that you're in constant contact and you commit to the process. Nothing worse than somebody's constantly keeping in touch and then they just disappear off the face of the planet. Because what happens is they actually believe that you are out of business. And so even if you are top of mind, they think, oh, well, they stopped talking to me, so they must have decided to do something else and they're no longer in real estate. So they will make that decision for you, even if you are still in real estate, if you just randomly stop communicating with them. All right. So the next one is, in order to be successful at nurturing relationships, we must understand our goals. All right, we are going to go here. So take a look at this graph and compare it to the wave graph you've seen before, where every person in your database is on a wave. Does everybody remember that wave graph? It kind of goes like this. No? All right, good thing I put it on the next slide so you can look at it. I was being proactive. So in this graph, if you go backwards to the previous page, right, it starts with that lead generation. You generated a lead. Then it becomes lead follow-up. And you stay in lead follow-up for a really long time sometimes until it gets to lead conversion and when they're ready to transact. And that's when it becomes a transaction. And it goes back to the beginning of lead follow-up and lead follow-up and lead follow-up. And then you convert and you transact, right? So then this is that wave. Statistically, over time, they say most people will move in 7 to 10 years. So if you move at 7 to 10 years, shortly after that, say you meet them, and can you see my cursor on there? I don't know if you can see my cursor on my shared screen or not.
You can.
Right after that hill, they just moved, and that's where I met them. Oops. Right? If that's where I met them, they're on the downhill slope. They're not ready to transact. They're not ready to buy or sell. They just bought and sold, and that's when I met them. So if you follow that wave until they get to that point where something in life changes, whether they've had kids or, maybe somebody's moving away to college, or my knees don't work the way they used to, because that's a problem I'm having these days, then they start thinking about it, and then they start plugging away and then they're start looking at Zillow, and they start looking at all those other websites and what's out there and how much do I have to spend and what do I need to do to fix my house, right? You want to be in this process all the way through that valley. So even if you meet them right here on the way down and, oh, I'm not moving. And then one day something changes. Well, maybe I'm thinking about it. Oh, well, let's see what my credit's doing, etc. So that you're still in their life when they get to the top again and they're ready to move. Okay, so the goal of following that lead and that contact is through all the hills and valleys. So regardless of what part of the hill or valley you meet them at, you want to follow the path. Okay, so so the question is, how long is this lead follow-up phase?
Forever.
Forever. My favorite is until ... until who knows what happens, but that's where you want to be. You want to be in that lead follow-up stage. So the lead follow-up stage, as we said, is the lead turns into that lead conversion when they get closer to the top of the hill. They may not be there yet, so you stay here until they get there, and then the transaction will happen. Of course, sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you meet those leads that are ready to go right now. Those are your golden leads, and you want to make sure you're following up more than once a month or more than every 10 days. You want to be regularly in communication when you meet those people that are like, yeah, probably by spring, I'm going to be ready to list my house. Like, you want to be in the loop, right? So they're already getting to the top of that hill, and you want to be there when they get there. So pay attention to those golden leads. All right. Now, on page 12.4, of your participant guide, it says, previously we've discussed that our goal is to convert leads to appointments. The converting leads to appointments is getting them to have closed business. You get an appointment, you get the closed business. So depending on where they are in that process, the other part of it sometimes too is you got to remember, is that you have to remember that not everybody's able to move when they want to. So making sure that those leads that are you're trying to convert to appointments and you're having that conversation with them, that they're able to, that financially they're able to, that they have the credit, they have the down payment, they have all the steps to make the process happen. And if not, what do you need to do to help them get there? So that's going to be part of your process of those conversations. And that's where that building that relationship and learning the details comes from as well, is figuring out where they're at in that process to see if they are able to also purchase or sell a home, and then finding out when they're ready to meet. And when they're ready to meet, make sure you're ready. I would say that one of the things that I find, and I don't know where everybody's at in their business at the moment that's on here. However, one of the things that I find specifically with new agents is they think, oh, well, I'll do my buyer's presentation eventually. I'll do my seller's presentation eventually. And then all of a sudden somebody calls and said, can you come over tomorrow? And then it's panic time. So one of the things that you want to make sure that you are doing in the process, besides lead generating, is making sure that you are ready to do business and you are ready to do the transactions and you have your presentations and you've done, your MLS things and made sure that you're able to show houses and paid your dues and done all the things. Okay, so make sure that that's part of it. So I have a question. If you had to guess, how many times have you agreed to be on someone's database when you were not actually ready to make a purchase? Think about all the times you signed up for an email list or a text message thing to get a discount code that you may never use. Anybody ever do that? Yeah, everybody raise your hand. All right. I know that I'm not the only one, and looks like I can see all the hands. So lower your hand if you have only done this once. Lower your hand if you have done this less than 5 times. Lower your hand if you have done this less than 10 times. Lower your hand if you have done this less than 20 times. So there's still people out there that have done this more than 20 times. Now think about how you might have ended up. Eventually, maybe you ended up buying something from them, right? I'm a victim, okay? I'll just be honest. Right now, literally yesterday, I ended up buying Il Makiage foundation. For those of us who have seen the Il Makiage foundation things all over the reels and the TikToks and the things, right? I bought it. I did, because I watch it, and I see it, and I get the discount code and sign up for the text, and I got like 5 texts today because of it. So I literally fell for this yesterday. But eventually, because I started looking into that, I ended up buying something from them. Anybody else ever end up buying something from someone from all of those texts and the emails and oh, here's this discount code. Oh, maybe not today. Oh, well, now we're going to double it. Oh, now we're going to triple it. And, we all fall for that, right? So think about if you were that person, if you were the text message that was coming through for those people. Think about how many people, when they decide to buy or sell a house, if you're still the person on the other end of the text message or the email thread, right? Everybody does this. We all do this. We all sign up for databases of other companies to get a discount code. And sometimes it's even just to look at their website. You fill in the little thing and put in your email or whatever. It's not even because you're actually interested. It's like, oh, I just wanted to see what that is. And then you end up getting texts and emails forever, right? And so the quality and the frequency of the follow-up is often what really makes the difference, right? So if they started out, well, here's your 10% discount. Oh, a week goes by. Oh, now you can get a 20% discount. Oh, now there's a 35% discount, right? At some point, you look at that text, you're like, oh, I got to do this right now, right? So it's that quality and that makes the difference and makes you want to actually continue through the purchase. So when you, as an agent, if you are following up with those people, the people in your database, it's the content, it's the information. Are you sending them value? Or are you just saying, hey, do you want to buy a house yet? No, thanks, bye. Are you sending them actual value? Are you sending them, hey, spring's coming, by the way, you probably want to clean out your gutters and things so that, the water can flow freely and you don't end up with a leaky roof, or like different information. It does not always have to be, hey, do you want to buy or sell a house? Anything that is home related is of value to someone who lives in a house. Who are your vendors? Who is your contacts? Who give them tips? Christmas time, send out Christmas light, information of the local fancy Christmas lights, or Halloween party, trunk or treat areas, or different items that could be of value to your database. Right. And in Command, you can tag those things like, these people have kids, so I want to send them all my trunk or treat stuff. I probably am not going to send, the wine and cheese parties to those that are like, 18, right? If I have 18, 19, 20-year-olds, because I have kids that age, so I'm probably not sending them the wine and cheese party invitations, but I am going to send them the football tailgate party information, right? So those are different things. So pay attention to your database. You don't have to send everyone the exact same things. However, I also would say, depending on the size of your database specifically, don't send everyone something different either. That will take you forever. So figure out a couple of key categories that are primary in your database, whether it's location, whether it's interests, whether it's, a school maybe that they're all associated with, or a church they're affiliated with, or whatever it is that links them together in some way, and send all of them that information that goes with that idea. Does that make sense? Anybody have any light bulb moments or any thoughts on that process, on that conversation that they'd like to share? No light bulb moments, no thoughts. Okay, you're all just quiet. It's late. That's fine. All right. So next up, so we've identified our goal is to convert those contacts to close business. Now we're going to talk about the staying top of mind, that mind share and that positioning, right? That's our goal, is to stay top of mind. So when they make that decision, this graphic is also on page 12.4 if you're on your participant guide. We've talked about mind share a lot and how important it is to converting leads into appointments. So here's a few stats for you to think about. NAR stats are on the slide and in your participant guide on 12.4. 74 to 75% of all buyers and sellers spoke with just one agent before choosing them to represent them. What do you think about that? Only 15% of them considered even more than 1%, more than one agent. What does that tell you? Anybody have a guess on what that says?
That the one agent that's staying in contact or meets them when they're at that point is the one that they're going to hire.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Yep. You like the repeated emphasis on the maintain ongoing contact. Yeah, it makes sense. So what it tells me is that you need to stay top of mind with those buyers and sellers so that when the time comes and that moment happens, they think of you. That is your definition of mind share. You want to be that person. So it's kind of like if you think of, what's that tissue company that they call, right? What's that tissue company? Anybody know the name?
Kleenex.
Guess what? It's top of mind because they've got your mind share. Kleenex has your mind share. Even if you use any other brand, most people still call it a Kleenex, right? There are lots of things that take that mind share and just sit there and marinate in your brain of things that maybe not actually are what they are. Like a tissue is not actually a Kleenex. Kleenex is the brand. So when somebody thinks house real estate, you want them to think you. You want to be the mind share. You want to be that brand. So do you remember discussing before how many real estate databases each of your leads and contacts are in? Have you guys had that conversation?
I don't
No,
remember.
not yet.
No? All right. So think about it for a second. How many different real estate databases are you in? How many real estate emails do you get? Buy this house, or hey, look at this thing, or here's my flyer, or here's an open house. How many databases are you in?
I'm in hundreds.
Too many.
Literally.
Mm-hmm. And you're an agent, and they're still marketing to you. So think about how many your clients in your database and your contacts in your database are in. Probably a lot. So creating that value is going to be what stands you apart from everybody else. You want to be the person that stands out differently than everybody else. So if you've ever gone to a competitor's email website and they've had you for your email or texts or calls from them, right? It naturally makes sense that the goal number 2 of nurturing your relationships with your database is to stay top of mind. The data also shows that most sellers and buyers who interview one agent but before choosing someone to work with, that means you are not the first name that comes to mind hold on, can't even read the little paper. So the clients that are choosing to interview more than one agent means that you are not the only person they're thinking of, right? So how do you overcome that? How do you create that, right? How do you become the person they think of when the time comes? I've got a story that I'm going to share with you about being top of mind. So again, I told you before that I was a big open house person. I have created systems on follow-up and how to stay in touch and how to keep going with those open houses. And 90% of my closings in my career have been from an open house lead. I moved to Kansas City from out of state, so I have no family, no friends, no anybody that I've known for a lifetime to pull from. It literally was all strangers that I met at an open house. I have one story, one client that I had. When I met them, they walked into my open house 5 minutes after it was over, and they lived next door. And she says, "Hey, my husband just found out today at work that we're getting moved and transferred to Chicago, and we're going to have to sell our house. Can I just give you my information and so that we can figure out what we need to do next?" Sure, absolutely, great. We're ready to go. I'm ready to sell your house tomorrow. So I get her information and I put her in my follow-up system. I start calling, I start emailing, I'm writing handwritten notes, I'm sending calendars for the Chiefs season, I'm doing all the things and keeping in touch. And every month and every couple weeks, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on with the move? How's the transfer going? Just so you know, I know you're probably getting relocated, so I can also work with you through the relocation company if you request somebody, all of the things that you do. And 18 months goes by. Not a one did she return a call, a text, an email, nothing. I heard nothing from this lady. And she was the one who came to me and said, "Hey, we're moving. I need you to come and find me." 18 months. I'm still following up. She calls me and she's like, "Hey, remember me? I've got your magnet on my fridge, your note next to my bed, your card on my desk, and we're ready to sell. When can you come over?" It was a Tuesday. I showed up on Wednesday. I did my presentation. We had it on the market on Friday and sold it on Sunday. What happened was the husband got transferred. The son was getting ready to go into his senior year of high school. So husband moved. Mom and son stayed in Kansas City until son graduated high school. And so that 18 months was getting him through high school. And she's like, "All right, we're ready now. We're all going." And less than a week really of work. However, it was 18 months of follow-up. It was 18 months of staying in contact until ... right? Forever. And, it blew me away that she's like, "Yeah, your cards are next to my bed and your magnets on my fridge, your heart cards on my desk, all the things." But never did she actually respond and say hi. She just collected things and never did she. But the moment she was ready to sell, I was the person she called. Like I said, I was there within 24 hours. She didn't even care what I had to say. She was like, "Where do I sign?" signed the paperwork. We put it on the market. A couple days later, she'd already done all the painting and new carpet, and like the house was immaculate when I walked in. Listed it on Friday, sold it on Sunday. Easiest transaction ever. But had I given up, had I stopped, I would have lost her. She'd have gone into somebody else's open house and said, hey, we're going to be moving this spring. Can you keep in touch with me? But because I had kept in touch, she never changed agent. She just waited for the moment. So keeping in touch until is huge. Stay top of mind, stay in touch. All right. All right. So now let's talk about leveraging your mind share. Your clients never stop being contacts. So even after they close, even if they move out of state, keep in touch. Have you ever had somebody move out of state and then come back? That happens a lot around here. I don't know about everywhere else, but it happens a lot around here. They leave and then 2-3 years later, they decide they didn't like wherever it was they went and they come back. Guess what? If I stayed in touch, I'm the agent they use when they come back. Works for me, right? Or maybe all their friends and family are still here and they want to move at some point. So if I'm staying in touch, even if they've moved out of state or out of town, I'm still in touch. Okay. Think about when you go to look for like a hairstylist or a new physician or a restaurant, what do you do first? Most people start asking their friends and family. It's like,
Yelp
hey,
or Google.
Yelp or Google. Yeah. Yeah. Especially if it's a business, but if it's a personal, like something that's important to me, like hair, I may not be looking at Google. I might be like, hey, I like your haircut. Who do you use? I'm going to look for more personal referral, right? A real estate transaction is a more emotional process. It's not just a Yelp or Google, like, oh yeah, they sold my house. Yay, great. You know, it's a different emotional process than just a thing like that. So, services, goods, those types of things, stay top of mind. In 2021, NAR found that 47% of buyers who used an agent were referred to them by a friend, neighbor, or relative. That number jumps to 57% for first-time home buyers. So if you are keeping in touch when the conversation comes up with their friends and family, doesn't even matter if they're the ones ready to transact. You're still the person that's top of mind. So when their friends and family say, hey, I'm thinking about moving, they're going to say, oh, I've got this great agent. You know, she's had me come to these events, or she keeps in touch. She sends me information about, you know, how to keep my gutters clean or whatever it is. Like, you become that person and they're going to be like, they're your raving fans. They're your walking billboards all the time, even if they never move. I've got a client. I can't even call him a client. I met him because I was putting an open house sign, like a turn here type, go this way open house sign in the corner of his yard. One of the things I have always done is I always go knock on that door and I ask them for permission to do that before I put the sign in their yard. I just find it courteous. I think it's rude to just stick it in the yard and not talk to them. If it's their personal property, I ask them first. So I knocked on the door and I was like, hey, my name's Misty. I'm doing an open house tomorrow. I was wondering if I could borrow the corner of your yard. And he's like, I cannot believe, one, that you asked. And two, he's like, every other sign I ever see in the corner of my yard, I remove because they don't ask. And one person actually had taken their sign and poked the hole through his sprinkler system hose and poked a hole in the sprinkler system. And he's like, so I will show you where the right place is to put it. And that gentleman has now sent me 3 or 4 different referrals over the last 5 years. He still lives in the same house on the corner, right? He's a huge Elvis fan. My son did a whole wax museum thing and did a wax Elvis thing, and I'd put it on social media, and he actually sent my son a whole Elvis packet of Elvis paraphernalia and like with Elvis's actual signature and autograph on it and things as a gift to my son. Never have I actually done a deal with this gentleman. He's the first guy who tells me happy birthday every year on social media. His mother passed away and he called me from the hospital to tell me. I've not even done a deal with this guy. but we have created a relationship and a friendship. It is still a professional relationship. We're not hanging out going to restaurants together or anything. It's literally a professional relationship, but I am always top of mind when something big happens in his life. When something changes in his life, I'm the person he thinks of. So being that person, when anything happens and somebody says, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving," you still want to be that person. Okay. All right. Anybody have any ahas to share? Does everyone know what AHA stands for? Agents helping agents. So would anybody like to share anything that so far of what they think?
I'll share a little bit.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Krista.
Hi,
So, you might hear my dog in the background, so sorry.
That's fine.
But staying top of mind, what I do, I used to be in weight management, and we used to do calls, and we would call them care calls. So I like when we do our DT, D2s. And so randomly, what I've created a habit of calling anybody that really crosses my mind. And so, it's something that I just been doing forever. And I'm like, hey, hi, Auntie, or, you crossed my mind. I just only have 5 minutes because she's a talker. And so I just say, hey, I have a couple minutes, but I was just crossing your neighborhood and, I'm on my way to go see a client. And so I just wanted to let you know you crossed my mind if there's, anything that you need. And how are you doing? Just wanted to hear your voice. And then that's where we just kind of, connect and remind her I'm in real estate, but also just to show her and tell her I care about her. And I do that with my past clients. So I have one, her name's Kathy. She had fallen out of a bus because she's a bus driver. And so it's been years. Yeah. And so I just do these care calls, and I do at least do 5 and just, remind them, you crossed my mind. I just wanted to see how you're doing. I only have a few minutes, but I just wanted to hear your voice. And
That's
so
fantastic.
how's that house that you've done? How's the fence? Just a little bit of sprinkle of love and care. And then, you stay top of mind that way.
Yeah,
So.
you do. You do. You guys have covered the Ford conversation? Has everybody
Yes.
covered the Ford conversation? So the family, occupation, recreation, and dreams conversation. So those give you easy ways to kind of weave those care conversations in there too. So I love that. Thanks, Krista, for sharing. Anybody else want to share or any ahas or thoughts on this process?
I like the getting your share of the market and go out there and get, what did you say? Like a huge part of it, or
your unfair share.
There you go. I love it. I love it.
Yep. Go get your unfair share of the market. Go get more than what they say you deserve, right? Go overcome what they say you deserve and go get your unfair share.
Yes.
Fabulous. All right. Moving on. All right. So now we're going to work on devising a plan. So I hope you all have your participant guides with you. Page 12.5. We're going to start working on devising a plan. In the keep every lead and follow-up sessions that you did, I think it was sessions 10 and 11 that I believe everybody has done, you learned about how important lead follow-up is and how you can use the 19 to connect and 1 to cement plans to connect. Yes, maybe, kind of, sort of. Did you guys do some of that-ish, hopefully? If not, that's okay. We're gonna dive a little deeper, and so you can do it all. So now we're going to talk about, it's called the 36 to convert. They say 36 touches a year is part of how you churn transactions out of your database. So the 36 to convert plan and how to stay in contact long-term and gain the benefit of clients and referrals from your database because you have kept top of mind. 36 touches, 12 months, keeps you top of mind. Okay? So the 19 to connect is the 4 touches, 4 calls a year, monthly newsletters, 2 promotional direct mailers, such as a magnet or a calendar, an annual event, maybe a party, a movie screen. Is everybody doing events and parties? Have you had that class about events and parties yet at all? No? I would highly, highly recommend them.
No.
So if you haven't done them yet, I don't know what day it is in your program because I don't have my schedule in front of me. However, the events and client events are huge in that that mind share part of people's lives. I know people that hire a Santa and have, invite all of their database to come and take free pictures with Santa. It's not that expensive to hire a Santa, especially if you know someone. Maybe do it at your market center, or you could do it, at a restaurant or something. Take digital pictures and email them to them, but make it with one of those frames that has your information on it, like, your name or your logo, or even just KW 2025 or whatever, or like a hashtag, so that when they take that digital photo and they share it to their social media, now they're sharing all your contacts. Hey, look what my realtor did for me. We got free pictures with Santa. Right? Simple and not too complicated to put together. It just takes some planning and organizing, but not a whole lot of expense. You can make it a huge thing and do, crafts and prizes and gifts and all of that, but it doesn't have to be. So keep that in mind. Oftentimes I hear people talk about these giant, huge, massive events. You don't have to do that. You don't have to have a giant, huge event for the event to be effective. It can be a smaller event and still be just as effective. So don't let yourself stress out about the financial part of that. Your market center does events and lets us invite your clients and divide and cover the cost. Yeah, some market centers will do that. And maybe if they don't, maybe you should ask them to, or talk to your ALC about doing even like a trunk or treat and just sponsor a car in your parking lot and have a trunk or treat and have all the agents sponsor a car and do that and invite your clients to, right? We do a trick or treat in our office where they do all that kind of stuff. And then you don't even have to pay for it. All you have to do is participate. So, doing client events once a year, a couple times a year, there's lots of different versions of them to do. They give you a very easy reason to contact your database, as well as then give you the event to actually network and socialize and create that memory with them. A big part of the event, though, is making sure that there's a way to take a picture or a capture or something so that they can then share it and tag you on their social media, which then their friends and family say, oh, my agent didn't do that. My agent didn't have a Halloween party. My agent didn't blah, blah, blah. It gives you that extra unfair share. Okay. So hopefully if you've done the 19 to connect, you have already created a plan, which can be your foundation for your 36 to convert. The 36 to convert plan has a little bit different layers of input. It contains a mixture of phone calls, newsletters, events, market updates, home valuations, and other value-based connections. The trick is to find what people in your market value and to design your touches to match what they value. And we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, when you have those tags and what connects them. If you're going to send a bulk email, maybe you have 4 different versions of that bulk email. One's for families that have little kids, one's for single people, one's for, folks that are getting ready to downsize, one's for, just a couple and maybe they're getting ready to the first time home buyers. Maybe you have different categories depending on what your database looks like, so that you can still send it in a bulk format so it doesn't take you forever, but it's a little more specialized to who's in your database. And that's where those KW command tags come in really helpful, is to identify those connections of people. Part of the 36 touch should be 4 phone calls a year, right? So how do we know what our clients value? It goes back to that question somebody asked earlier about if they want to unsubscribe, do you just start mailing them? Well, if I have the conversation, now I can figure out what they value. Maybe they don't value emails, but maybe they value a personal conversation. Maybe they value getting a birthday card. I can tell you that I've been known, I haven't been great the last year or so, but I have been known to be a big birthday card person. And how many phone calls and things, especially from clients or strangers that I barely even know, but I happen to have their birthday, call me and say thank you. It was the only birthday card that they received. That's a big thing. I'm just a realtor you met at an open house, and I happen to know your birthday because somewhere along the line I found out what it was, and I sent you a birthday card, and I'm the only one in your life that sent you a birthday card? That's a big thing, right? It makes an impact. Especially when you're talking to the older generation that prefers paper somethings. My mom is a big paper anything. Send me a card. She literally keeps every card she has ever received in her entire life. And when she dies, I'm gonna have to go through them all. She tells me that's gonna be my penance, is going through all of those birthday cards and anniversary cards and everything she's received her whole life. She's got Rubbermaid tubs full of cards. Nowadays, people don't send them. It's not as big of a thing, so it makes a bigger impact actually when you do. So that could be part of those 4 calls that you make, finding out that information so that you can make those connections and those extra bonuses of cards and notes and such. Using the forward conversation to understand what they're looking for in their lifestyle and their dreams, and do they need a lake house, or are they looking to buy a boat, or what are they looking to do in their life, right? How do we do that? Well, maybe we need to downsize so we can afford a lake house, or maybe we, refinance and I need to connect you with my lender. I don't know. But, figuring that out through those conversations, the responses you get are going to be to different content will provide you different information on what is working with people and what isn't. Right? So a lot of the different command email systems and different things have that the trackers where you can see how many people opened them and whatever. I think it's a paid portion, but to find out what are people opening, what are they not opening, right? I know, like, if you send out the neighborhood nurturers through command, it'll tell you if they opened them and look at them. You can see who's paying attention, right? So knowing what is important to them. If they start opening all of the information about the market and the interest rates and any information that you send that is real estate related, I might be wanting to make some extra phone calls. I might be wanting to pay attention to what I'm sending and getting them ready to convert. Smart plans are a big benefit in this. So having those smart plans set up, you can download a lot of them, or you can create your own, depending on who you are and what your thoughts are on content and such. You may be somebody who's great at the content, or you're somebody like me who likes to hijack other people's content and, repurpose it. That's okay, right? So the 36 to convert is the 4 touches a year or 4 phone calls a year, 26 bi-weekly emails offering some type of information of value to the customer, 2 events or get-togethers or parties, 4 touches of promotional direct mail, such as a magnetic calendar, a market report. That is the system that is in there. I am going to share you a couple of tools that I have used. So anybody used or heard of Buffini and Company? So it's an outside of Keller Williams program, but his whole system is based around building referral business, not necessarily starting from scratch with open house business. So he had a whole system with note cards and mailers and calls and providing information. One of the things that I learned through the Buffini system that I loved is that it was like, I think it was like every 3, like you would send like 3 content information, like could be about, turning back the clocks and cleaning your gutters and pest control. And then the 4th one was about market stats. And then it was, Christmas lights and traveling over the holidays and Halloween and, how do I add value to my property? 6 easy ways to add value on a budget, right? Like painting your house or whatever, right? So it was like 3 non-actual real estate terms or items of value, and then 1. So like once a quarter, you got a real estate value item, right? So I liked that system of it wasn't all about real estate, but it was still about real estate. It was still about homes and houses, but not, hey, buy a house all the time kind of a system. So I liked that. So I kind of took a couple of things from that, and I'm going to show you these. They're not in your participant guide, but I'm going to have Alana send them to you afterwards in a PDF format, so you can see what I did. So I kind of took the DTD2 system and what I call put on steroids. Okay. So this is the weeks of the year. This is 2025. So your normal DTD2 system is here. You're going to back up. is here. So it's all of these calls and it has the same letters, etc., that goes for the DTD2 system. Everybody has seen the DTD2 system prior? Yeah? Okay. So what I did, so these are your personal touches. So there's 3 things. Instead of just once a quarter giving them a phone call, then you're also going to do either an email or a pop by. If everybody know what a pop by is, like a little gift or a little something to stop by someone's house and say, hey, I'm thinking of you, similar to what I think it was Krista had said with her phone calls. Pop buys are kind of a little token item, can be anything really. It can be a branded item, it can be a Halloween goodie bag, it can be whatever you want it to be. Pinterest is your friend for pop by ideas. And I would say your top A and A plus people, I would do pop buys depending on your budget. They don't have to be expensive, and those that don't get a pop by get an email. However, the goal of these emails in this personal things is about those personal touches. It's similar, like Krista said, those care calls. It's a care email. Hey, it's spring. How's Johnny's baseball season going? I was just thinking about you guys. Hopefully, he hasn't grown 3 shoe sizes and you need new cleats this year. I don't know, whatever that is, right? So whatever you've got in your database of information, that's what you're going to use in that email. So these are the letters you would call in, say, January, right? That's where your care call, your personal call, your forward conversation. Then these are your similarly forward email options, right? Obviously, it's an email, so it's not always a 2-way conversation, but it's an email. And then you're going to write a handwritten note. And if you've been doing your daily success system, you should be doing 10 notes a day, as they say. And so these are the people you would write a handwritten note to. It could be birthday cards, it could be Happy New Year's cards, it could be whatever. And you just write a little note that says, hey, how's it going? Hope everything's great for 2025, or your goals, what are your goals this year? Just curious. Maybe we should have a coffee date or whatever. One of my favorites is in March. I always put a little dollar scratch off ticket. Hey, when you win the lottery, let me know and I'll help you buy your dream home. Right? So it's kind of a pop by and a note all in the same concept. So I just put a little dollar lotto scratch off ticket. They're maybe going to win $50. But, the idea is, hey, when you win the lottery, let me know and I'll help you buy your future dream home, right? Kind of a concept. So that's the idea of these 3 first columns. They're personal touches. They're very individualized. In each week, you would contact, depending on the size of your database, 6 different letters. What happens is when you follow this system, every quarter, your entire database gets a phone call. Every quarter, your entire database gets either an email or a pop by, depending on who they are. Every quarter, they get at least 1 handwritten note. Right? So they've got 3 personal touches, 1 a month. So instead of 1 a quarter, like the phone call for a year, they get touched every single month in some way, but it's not a burden of, they feel like, because sometimes our brains can play tricks on us. Well, they don't want to hear from me. I don't want, I don't want to call too much. I don't want to text too much, right? So they don't want to hear from you, or you have that thought process. This way it kind of spaces it out. They don't know that you have it on a system of when you call them or talk to them or email them. However, when you're only calling or emailing every couple of months, it feels like it's spaced out farther. Does that make sense? Any understandings that make sense? Everybody understand kind of the idea of this personal touches? So it's kind of that DTD2 system on steroids, because you're talking to everyone every month in some sort of personal fashion. It takes that commitment. It takes the willpower and the follow-up and the follow-through to get to actually accomplish this system, but it does work. Then on top of it, you send that bulk email that once a month, whether it's a market share or a neighborhood nurture, or it's I call it the spam email. It's the bulk email that everybody's going to get. It's not personalized. It can be those group emails in categories, but it's not a, hey, Steve, how's it going? Hope Johnny's baseball game's going great kind of email. It's like, hey guys, how's the market's doing this? The interest rates are doing that, whatever it is, but it's a to everyone type of an email. So I call it my bulk email. It's blank so that you can use this as a planning guide to write in what you want that email to be, right? So it could be Happy New Year. It can be Happy St. Patty's Day. You can use those things as triggers. hey, happy new year. What are your goals or your resolutions this year? If it's buying a house, let me know, kind of thing, right? So you can plan ahead. Similarly, this last column over here is the bulk mail idea. So sending some sort of bulk mailer. They're going to get that personal note card, which I assume everybody's writing their personal notes in their daily success system that they're supposed to be writing. Yes. Hopefully that's a yes, maybe, kind of, sort of. You know, does everybody understand the value of the note card? Do we
Yes.
all understand kind of a little bit? I'm seeing a little, maybe not so much. So envision it this way. You go to your mailbox and get your mail, and it's a stack this big. What's the first thing that you're going to open in that mail?
Anything that's not a bill.
Anything that's not a bill. And even if there's things that aren't a bill, if it's handwritten and hand addressed, you're probably going to open that first. And maybe you might even take that handwritten note card and hang it on your refrigerator.
Yes.
Handwritten note card is also a birthday card or a happy home anniversary or whatever it is. I might hang it on my refrigerator for a while too. So now you're not only taking up mind share, you're taking up physical mind share in their home by hanging it on their refrigerator or their bulletin board, or in my case, next to her bed, as she would say, right? So that is a big part of that handwritten note. It's a lost art in our society right now, and it makes a huge impact on how people interact with us. And so if they think you took the time to write a note, I mean, I know I open birthday cards for my dentist that are pre-printed birthday cards even. They're not even handwritten. So if somebody took the time to actually handwrite something to me, I'm going to make that a little bit more value. Does that make sense? Does that help a little bit with understanding the why we ask you to do those handwritten notes? So in this system over here that you're doing the handwritten notes, that is a key. The bulk mail could be your postcards. It could be the chief's calendars. It could be, you know, those other items of value that you send out. However, they're for everybody. They're not a personalized something. Okay. So this way they get their 36 touches, because if they get their bulk mail once a month, that's 12. If they get their bulk email once a month, another 12, so that's 24. And then in some way, shape, or form, they're either getting a call, an email, or a note. Guess what? That makes your 36 to convert. Right? So it's not exactly the same as what's in your participant guide. Both systems work. What works for you? The system that works for you is the system that you use. Whatever system that is, whether it's this DTD2 on steroids, if it's the 36 to convert system that's in your participant guide, what works is what you use. It doesn't matter what the system is, but you use it. You are going to get a copy of this this DTD2 on steroids in a PDF from the Ignite After Dark people. I told her I was going to send it to her so she can send it. Next slide I'm going to show you is also not in your participant guide, but you will also get a PDF of this. So here's the other thing that I would recommend. So this goes in conjunction with or in partnership with your DTD2. This takes the thought process out of it. Has anybody ever had that? Well, I'd call, but I don't know what to say. Right? Or I'd send an email, but I don't know what to say. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think, or blah, 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 right? All of those things. This is a game plan for your entire year. And all you have to do is go to your DTD2 and say, all right, so it's February 16th, and I'm going to email my DNOs. Guess what? It's February, so I'm going to email about XYZ thing. So if you look at this system, it can be a bulk thought and a personal email. So if you're going to write a happy Valentine's Day email to someone, and I'm just using that because it's on the calendar as a holiday to utilize, maybe you're one of those people that has the 12 months with like Happy Donut Day or whatever it is, you know, use those types of things as well. You could say, hey, hope you're having a great February. Wanted to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. Hopefully you and your husband have a great night out. You know, I know your favorite restaurant is a steakhouse or whatever, you know, let me know what I'd love to hear what you're going to do for Valentine's Day, right? You know, and then if you want to double down on that, what if they reply and say, yeah, we're planning to go to our favorite steakhouse for dinner. We've got reservations at 6 on Friday. What happens if you were to call that steakhouse on Friday at 6 with the client's name and have a prepaid dessert or a bottle of champagne or a something already taken care of waiting for them when they got there? Who do you think has mind share now? Who do you think is going to be all over their social media saying, I cannot believe that me and my husband went to dinner at such and such steakhouse, and my real estate agent that I haven't even bought a house with in 6 years sent us dessert and had it waiting for us when we were there? Right? So if you already know what you're going to call an email about, it's easier to plant those thoughts in their head to give you answers that might help you double down on the mind share. If you're just randomly writing an email, hey, how's it going? Hope you're well. But if you ask a question and get that response, right? They talk about the MOF or whatever, it motivates you to response type of thing. If you ask a question that motivates a response, hey, even if you don't know what their favorite restaurant is, hey, hope you're going to have a great Valentine's Day. Are you guys planning on celebrating? Do you have a favorite restaurant just out of curiosity? Because I'm trying to figure out where I want to go for Valentine's Day. Right? Then if they respond and give you the answer, then you can respond and say, oh, great. Are you going on Valentine's Day? Is it really busy that day? Or are you going to go a different day? Right? It creates that relationship and that conversation. And all you're doing is asking questions so that you can double down on it. So when you create this connecting with your database plan, you've got your reasons to call. You've got your pop-by ideas and what you want to make or create or give to them in that month. You've got, what am I going to email about? What kind of questions am I going to ask? Reasons to mail. What kind of mailers am I going to do? Like, right, right now we're getting into baseball season. If you're in we've got the Royals here in Kansas City, wherever you are, is baseball season a big deal? Maybe you're going to send a calendar out. Maybe that's your bulk reason to mail. I don't know the answer for you because everyone is different and should be. However, planning ahead will make your life easier. It will make your lead generation and your time block of connecting with your database more efficient and effective if you are a planner ahead. Right? Especially for those of you, I'm stereotyping that I'm assuming that many of you are dual career or agents that have another job, or you're a stay-at-home mom and time is of the essence. Right? I assume if you're on this Zoom at 8 to 10 p.m. at night, or at least that's what it is here in my time zone. If you're on a Zoom call from 8 to 10 at night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the rest of your day is probably pretty full. So utilize your limited amount of time that you have for connecting with people and building those relationships as efficiently and as effectively as you can. Be smart about it. Make a plan, stick to the plan, follow up, and keep going. Any questions or thoughts on this?
I'm sorry.
Say that again.
Oh, you're about to read it. I just needed to know, is there, with your mailers, by you doing so many, is there a particular place that you like to get them from?
Not necessarily. Depends on what I want to mail about. However, if I have a timeline, for example, like over Christmas break, is when I do a lot of my planning for this stuff, right? Usually that's my time to do those things. Or like when my kids were little, when they napped or whatever, that was my planning time or whatever, because I couldn't really be on the phone because they were sleeping and whatever. I would research. So if I know in May I want to do something for Cinco de Mayo, for example, I would know now what that looks like. And I might just take it to Kinko's and print it. Right? And then you can do the labels right in Command and have them printed. And just print the labels out to put in on whatever you're going to mail. I know people that have, I don't think I have it here in my office. I've seen people that have like one of those folder systems, like for birthday cards, and they write all of their birthday cards for the month, like that they're going to send out. And so then January 1st, they take the whole thing out, they stick the stamps on, send the whole thing in the mail. The whole year is written. It's done, or the quarter is done, or whatever. They don't seal them until right before, just in case they wanted to put in a gift card or write something, important or whatever to them in that birthday card. However, they are already sitting there in the folder ready to go, and you just have to take out January. All right, I'm going to seal them and stamp them, and out in the mail they go. So I don't know that I have a favorite place. If your Buffini does have, so if you become a member of the Buffini system, they send some to you every month to use. I think you get like 100 a month, but if you have more people than that in your database, you have to figure something else out. But so I don't know that I have a favorite place. I've done all the things. I've done postcards and calendars and I've done all the handwritten notes and all the things that go along with that. So I don't know that I'd say I have a favorite place. I used to pay my children to sticker them for me too, because I got tired of doing the labels. And once they were old enough and coordinated enough to do the labels, I'm like, hey, for $5, if you just put all these stickers on, here's your $5, or we'll go to the grocery store and get you an extra candy bar or something. And I'd bribe my children to be my leverage because I didn't have the money to pay an actual adult human that wants a lot more money than $5 to do things. My 10-year-old loved a $5 bonus for putting stickers on stuff. Right?
Oh, $5 did work these days. My daughter is a whole paycheck right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes and again, it depends on where you are in your business, right? It depends on where you're at in your life. But that's just some things that I did. Again, like I said, the bulk mailers don't have to be as wow as some of the other things. They can be just informational, because even if it's a postcard, they look at it as they walk it to the trash can. They're still looking at it. Your same face, your same logo, your same whatever is on there. And they've gotten your email, and they've gotten your handwritten note, and they've got, so it's just reinforcing that mind share. So any other thoughts, ahas, ideas that anybody like to share? Questions?
Yeah, I have a question, but it's kind of like it's on the subject, but what would be an example, just something that doesn't work, that many people do, and then they realize, yeah, this doesn't work.
I don't know that I have that example, because I believe that it depends on who you are.
I'm just curious because I do hear a lot of suggestions, and I do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So my
Okay.
recommendation to you would be
So
is pick 3 things to lead generate. So pick 3 things that you think you'd be interested in. Okay, start with 3, because you're going to learn all the different ways to do lead generation, expireds and FSBOs and open houses and all the different ways, right? Pick 3 things. 1, with the idea that it's a for right now business. So your open houses, your for sale by owners, expired listings, those are closer to your right now business people. Those are people that are more likely statistically to be ready to do business soon versus later. And then I would have some sort of lead generation system for long term, whether it's the database and building those relationships, those types of things, events, etc. And then have a third one, whether that's I want to work by referrals or cold calling or whatever that other system is going to be. Pick 3. Stick to it for 3 to 6 months. And then decide which ones work really well for you and maybe which ones aren't so great for you. And then if one's not so great, change it. But give it 3 to 6 months. Don't attempt, in my opinion, this is my opinion, don't attempt to do all of them all the time, because you will then never be great at any of them. So pick 3 things that you think sound interesting that you want to double down on, as these are my lead generation activities that I am going to do, and I'm going to learn to master it. And I'm going to do it as well as I possibly can and see how effective it is for you. And then if it's not effective for you, then change it. But don't give it a 1-day try. Give it a 3 months, give it a 6 months, try, and really learn to do it really well, and then change it or tweak it or adjust it, right? Maybe it's I need to call only FSBOs and not I don't know, whatever that is, but tweak it to make it a little better as you go, and then determine, you know what, I absolutely hate doing open houses. I want to do something different, then change it, but get really good at it first.
Can I share something?
Sure.
I agree with you. Do what you're best at. So I loved door knocking, but my thing was my follow-up really sucked. And I love making care calls, but after 10 calls, I start stuttering. So I pick what am I comfortable with? I can show up for 10 calls, make sure that I have a two-way conversation with 5, so I keep my goals pretty realistic because I do work full-time in property management. So, door knocking for sure. And when I do door knocking, I'm going to do like 26 flyers and make sure that I get doors open. And then when I go out and socialize, I make sure I leave with 2 numbers.
Right.
So like, I'm not going to go out and just go have a drink and have fun. I'm here to make sure that I make new friends. So yeah. And so at least leave with 1 or 2 numbers. Whatever I'm doing, I'm not going to leave empty-handed.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the key. Do something that you enjoy. But if you're new and you don't know, then pick what you think you're going to enjoy, because you may not. You may really surprise yourself. I thought I would hate door knocking. It turns out I love it. But I thought I was going to hate it. And I will tell you, every time I door knock, even to this day, I look for the house that looks like nobody's going to answer for my first door to knock on, just because my anxiety starts to build. And so I go to the first house, I think nobody's going to know. They're not home. The lights are off, and I knock on that one. Okay, well, I did it once, so I guess I can do it another 100 times, so, but I have to get over that anxiety fear, right? I know that through practice and learning that I am not a great cold caller. Like I think I said at the beginning, I'm a big body language person. I like to see faces and know how they're reacting. If you're on the phone, I can't see that. And my cold call sounds similar to, "Hi, my name is Misty and I'm with Keller Williams. And I was just wondering if you're looking to buy or sell real estate. If not, that's okay. I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye." Not a very effective phone call, right? So I learned through practice and things that that's just not a great way for me to lead generate, because I'm not good at it. But I did it. I've tried it. I've practiced it. I've worked at it. I've gotten better at it. However, it is not great for me. So I can't tell you that there's anything that does not work. Things work differently for different people depending on who you are.
Well, no, you answered that question great though, because it's the end of the response that answers my question, if that makes sense. Because that's what I was getting at. Like, because you hear from a lot of people, well, I'm gonna do this, and I only got 1 or 2 calls like in a month, and I know everything's different for everyone, but sometimes I wonder, like, you should have just kept going with it, or just, I guess. So yes. So your response was great at the end. I caught it. That's what I was looking for.
Good. I'm glad that helps. Yeah. So go forth and learn and master whatever it is that you're going to work on. All right. Let's move on. All right. First off, here's what I want you to do. All right. So they told me that I should give you a challenge in the middle of class, and we're actually more than a middle of class. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Depending on your time zone, I want you to either direct message, text message, or social media post something that says about Valentine's Day. Asking your database what they're going to do for Valentine's Day, who they're going to go with, if they have a plan. If not, are they going to do a Galentine's Day? Maybe they don't have a significant others. Say, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do for Valentine's Day. What is your plan? I'd love to hear it. Give me your best suggestions or something along those lines. So I'm going to give you like 3 minutes to kind of direct message, social media post, something, and ask a question, because I want them to respond. Right? And not just a, do you have a plan? Like, I want to know, what is your plan? Where are you going to go? Who are you going to go with? Like, maybe ask several questions. So I'm going to give you a minute or 2 to do that. Think of something to write. If you want to put what you're going to write in the chat comment so other people can steal it from you and repurpose it, because I'm always a fan of regurgitating other people's thought process. Feel free to do so. And I'm going to drink some water because my throat's getting dry. All right. So we've got the new message. I love that one, Gerald. That's really cool. If you get any responses while we're still on here, I'd love to hear what that people have to say and see if that gets you any good connections and just kind of building that rapport with people. We are going to continue on. All right, so craft the message. So use the 6 connection questions. Have you, do we remember what the 6 connection questions are? They're on page 12.5 in case you're wondering.
Who are they? What do they want or need to do? What do they want? Where do they want or need to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And
Why do they
when
want it? When do they want
Mhm.
it? How do they,
How
how
to
do they plan to
plan.
get there? Yeah. Yeah, so those are fairly simple connection questions, right? So that's kind of, and you can use those, not necessarily ask that specific question, but that's what the answer you're trying to get, not necessarily say, well, why do you want that? Well, the goal is through the conversation is to get that answer. It doesn't necessarily mean that is the exact question that I would ask somebody, but whether that's via text or social media, you can use those questions. The goal of your 36 touch should do 2 things. One, build your connection to the contact by getting to know what they need and what they want, like by using those 6 questions, right? That is the goal. So your 36 touches should build that relationship and understanding of what they need and want and who they are and how they live and all of those things. The second is to elicit a response from them to contact you that puts you in dialogue with them as quickly as possible. So what messages are they going to give you back, right? Like that's where the whole Valentine's Day question. So you want to ask a question, they're going to respond to you so that you can understand what's happening, right? Because you might get a response that says, yeah, Valentine's Day is our anniversary. Guess what? I'd be putting that in my database in command. And they'd probably be getting not a happy Valentine's Day card, they'd be getting a happy anniversary card from me. Right? So depending on what those responses are with those texts and the messages that you're sending out, understanding that is part of it. And as for the MOFR in that, which is on 12.6, it can be that direct offer, right? When you're asking for that response, it can be the direct offer. One that's just designed to get a response from someone who is ready to buy or sell now, right? So when you're asking those questions, some of your mailers or contacts should be about, hey, what are your plans in real estate this year? Are you looking to grow your investment portfolio? Or maybe, hey, yeah, I heard Johnny's, graduating this year. So you guys gonna stay in the house after he moves away to college? Or are you gonna be, looking to downsize? Or are you looking for a vacation home because you don't have kids at home anymore, right? So learning that connection and that relationship can then lead to that response category of how you're going to relate it back to real estate in some way, shape, or form. There are a lot of things in this world, guys, that you can literally turn around and make it into a real estate conversation, in case you didn't know. Okay, so think about it as you're making these contacts, and some of those spreadsheets that I'm going to have sent to you or whatever, that will help you start the conversation so that you know where you're going. Okay. So any other thoughts on what could be a good MOFR to put in your 36 to convert touch plan? Any ideas on something that would create that response?
I have a silly question. What does that mean again? Because I've
So the MOFR, it should be, I believe it's on 12.6 according to my notes. Let me pull it up here.
every time I hear that, I'm like, what does that mean? And then like make
So
offer.
yeah, let's make offer for immediate response.
Okay, thank
Is
you.
what it's intended to be. So it's make an offer for an immediate response. So you're making an offer of, you're asking a question basically that you want them to respond to. So, and that's where events come in too. Like I'm making an offer, I'm inviting you to an event. I need you to respond in RSVP. Right. So so a couple of the things, several of the things in your 36 touch plan should be to get those offers and those responses back. So if you're doing events and those things, hopefully you're getting those responses back. Does that make sense? In your, on 2012-6, it has a couple examples on there, like, this awesome house just came on the market. If you're looking for a home in this neighborhood, call me. Right? That could be a social media post. Right? Interest rates are the lowest ever. You could be considering buying now or thinking about refinancing. I can put you in touch with lenders who can work with you. Right? Do you know that the prices of homes in your neighborhood or in the area of town? I've got just the report for you. Let me know and I will set you up. You know, those kinds of things. Get them on their neighborhood nurture plan. Right? So those are just kind of some examples, like, hey, here's some information. If you would like more information, respond type of options. So, okay. All right. Oh, there's the 6 connection questions. The who they are, the what they are, which is written down for you. Here's the examples that we just talked about that were written in your participant guide. All right, so now we're gonna work on developing your 36 touch plan. Okay. There on page 12.7, I believe it is, if I've got my notes correctly, it has kind of what they talk about back a few pages ago about their version of what the 36 to convert plan looks like. Okay, and it's that, if you forgot, it's on 12.5. So if you look back a couple pages, that's what their version is, and that's what this is designed for. If you would like, I will turn it back to my DTD2 page. I can set it up there so that you can kind of create that plan from there as well. So that you can at least see what it looks like. You can screenshot it at least to have it in front of you. And then you will have a digital copy of it shortly. So I want you to spend a few minutes just kind of brainstorming, even if it's just like the next month, month and a half. Right? What is the next month, month and a half going to look like? So what is the phone calls going to look like? What are the, events or the mailers or the personal notes? What are you going to do the next in February and March, for example? Actually, I'm going to exit this full screen. And I'm going to pull up the PDF of the reasons to call, and then I'm going to pull up the DTD2, and I'll put them both on my screen at the same time, and you can check them out. Can you guys see my screen? Or was it the slideshow that was sharing? I don't remember.
I see the screen.
You can see my screen. Okay.
Database and the DTD2.
Okay. Cool. I wasn't sure if it was the slideshow that I had shared or if it was just the screen that I was using. So I'm going to give you maybe 5 minutes to work on this if you want, or ask questions, or if you guys want to brainstorm together. You're welcome to do that as well in the chat or out loud, to maybe kind of come up with some ideas on what you think you want to do for these events. If you have a brilliant idea, I'd love it if you'd share them.
I had a question. What would be a simple or
You froze on me.
just examples of the pop fight gift idea?
Mm-hmm.
What would, go ahead.
So that's okay. They can be anything. They really can be anything. Dollar store items are one of my favorites. So I did one year for the Super Bowl, being Chiefs country, with dollar store toilet bowl cleaner. And the tag said something like, well, if if the Super Bowl doesn't turn out your way on Sunday, maybe your toilet bowl will be a better option or something like that, right? It was literally just it was something that would make them laugh and opens a conversation, right? So it can be something silly to just say, hey, I was thinking of you. I wanted to stop by, drop off a little gift, right? You could go a little more personable with like a cookie or a branded something, like maybe you have branded with your logo Stanley cups or something. And so your top clients, hey, I had these ordered and I wanted to make sure that my top clients got them. Halloween time, the dollar store had these little glass jack-o'-lanterns. I think it's supposed to be for tea lights with a little handle on it. And I just filled them with candy corn, wrapped them in like some tulle, and my clients that had children, I dropped them off for Halloween just to say, hey, it's Halloween. I wanted you and your kids to have a good time. There's lots and lots and lots of options. There are social media pages, like Facebook has a gazillion of them. One of them actually was run by my daughter at one point. Pinterest is a great place to just put realtor pop by, and a bunch of different options will show up. Cold and flu season was one that they had like a survival kit that we did one year that had like cough drops and cold medicine and tissues and things in like a little baggie, and I'd show up with the mask on, like, hey, it's cold and flu season in case you need some extra things, right? If they're not home when I stop by, typically a pop by is designed to, there are a couple little rules that go with them. One, you don't necessarily, unless it's something of major value, like if you're dropping by an expensive something, you don't necessarily call first. It's literally intended to be a pop by. I'm just stopping by. Another rule of thumb is don't go inside, because if you go inside, you're there for an hour. Right? I say, oh, come on. I say, hey, you know what? I don't have time. I've got another appointment I'm heading to. I just wanted to pop by and give this little gift to you because I was thinking of you guys. Hope you're having a great day. Right? It's literally intended to be a less than 5-minute stop. And it doesn't have to be anything of major, big deal. One time I did, what was it? It was like the windshield wiper fluid, the cleaner. I got them at the dollar store. And if you have a dollar store or dollar something similar to that in your area, a lot of times you can order them ahead of time. So like I just called them and said, hey, I need 25 of these things so that I'm not pillaging their shelf. So if I'm using the chart and I know ahead of time that, hey, in March, I'm going to do XYZ thing, I can call and order that ahead of time so that I'm not, or they don't have enough of whatever it is I need. But I did the window cleaner in January. And then I did they had like a 99-cent ice scraper, I think at Walmart or something, that I hung on there. And it said, hey, I hope your view of, the future of 2025 is as clear, or something like that. Like if you have a clear view of what your future looks like and you need anything in real estate or whatever, I don't know. It was something about a clear view, and the tag had a picture of like a windshield that was cleaned off, from the windshield wiper fluid stuff. So there are lots and lots and lots and thousands of ideas out there depending on your budget. And if your budget is smaller, I would figure out in your database. So if you're looking at your DTD2, I would write down next to each letter how many people I have in that one, right?
Yeah.
So that I know, okay, so in January, for example, these letters, I have 25 people in those letters. So I know I need to budget accordingly. Whereas like if my name is Welter, I'm going to have a whole lot in whatever month has W in it, right? Because that's my last name and I know a bunch of people. So then maybe I have a dollar store item versus if you happen to be in a month where I have less people in that area, maybe you get a $5 item, just depends on where your budget is. And if you don't have the budget for a pop by, don't do them. Don't do them. Just do the email part. The pop by is kind of an additional on top of kind of a thing. It's not a requirement by any means. It's literally just a added little something. Or maybe if you're doing an event, it's a party favor for Halloween or Valentine's Day or whatever your deal is, right? So does that help a little? So I would plan your budget first and then plan your pop buys. Don't plan your pop buy and then try to make your budget match. Because some of us, me included, especially me, I can get really creative and over the top.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
next thing you know, I'm spending 30, 45, 50 bucks per person. And that's expensive. So plan your budget
Yeah.
first and then figure out how many people fall into the I want to give a pop buy list. And it doesn't have to be everybody in your database. It can just be, I'm going to give away 5 a week. So when I look at my letters, I say, okay, who are the 5 that are going to get it this month? And maybe it's not the same 5 when they come back around next quarter, right? But 5 people a week are going to get whatever pop by. And then you look at your list that matches those letters and you say, who are those 5 people? You know, depending on your budget. But
I just had one person respond to me on Facebook that stated they're hosting a Galentine's Day meet and greet the day before.
nice. And so I might respond and say, oh, that sounds like fun. How many people do you have coming? And then I might stop by with a little something for those 10 people. Again, depending on your budget, right? Lead with proceeds, don't lead with debt. So if you don't have the budget for it, don't do it. However, if you have the budget for something little like that, maybe you have little handwritten notes to all of them, you know, or whatever. Or maybe little conversation hearts that you can get from the dollar store or whatever with a little note card or something. I don't know. You know, so I would ask them, say, oh, that sounds like fun. How many people you got coming? You know, where is it going to be? You know, and kind of continue that conversation. See where that goes.
Well,
Right.
I kind of don't want to continue that one because she invited me to it. And so event, and I was like, oh shucks, she is one of my friends, isn't she? So I'll leave it as oh, that sounds like fun. Wish I could make it, but
Maybe I can drop something off for everyone.
there you go. I like that one. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Maybe. See where we're at. All right, so we're planning our touches. Do that. All right, so we're planning our touches for your 36 touch. We've got a few minutes. Anybody have any brilliant ideas on what they want to do or what they're planning to do?
Within a 36 touch, I do plan on at least for my 2 events. I have kayaking with Keisha because I love kayaking. Or I'm going to do a business warming event where I find out who the newest small business is and then invite my top maybe 10 or 15 people and invite them to that business to support them in their launch or whatever they're doing. And then my second event would be game day barbecue, where I have a big blow up screen. And then I have all the kids come and like game it out on this big screen while I'm barbecuing.
Yeah. Then you get to hang out with all the parents. How does
Yep.
kayaking become a customer or client event?
Okay, so actually that would be one, it's a twofold. I can either invite realtors and do connections and look at putting them under me for profit share because I can have a title company sponsor it and do a CE class and then the kayaking will be afterwards. Or if it is that I do the the clients, that's just a day out to have fun. They can bring their families, and I can actually get one of the teachers from the center to actually consider it a whole class and teaching everybody how to actually kayak. And then there you go with your pictures on the water. And it's a
Cool.
really small pond.
Okay, that, that makes more sense now, because that didn't make sense to me a minute ago, because it sounded like you said kayaking with Keisha, and I'm like, how is that an event that has anything to do with building a database? But now it makes more sense. It sounds like fun, so I want to come. All right, so we're gonna do a little math. All right, because we've got like 8 minutes or whatever left of our time together. So I want you to think about your database. How many people are in your database that you have permission to have conversations with, that you have a way to connect with them? Remember, 2 ways to connect with them. How many people is that in your database?
Mm.
Okay, everybody write that number down. Multiply that number by 4. Then divide that number by 12. That's the number of phone conversations that you need to have each month. Okay. And then if you want to even take it further, you can then divide it by the number of weeks in the month. So I would say even 4. Just do 4 as an average. And then divide it by 5, which is how many you need to make every day. Is that a simpler number to accomplish or a harder number to accomplish than you thought it would be?
Simple.
Simple.
A little bit of a challenge, but
Mhm.
still possible.
Okay, so what's your number? What's your daily number 5 days a week?
It says I have like 6.
6 phone calls a day. Krista says she has 5 a day. There's 24 hours in a day. And if you
Yeah.
have,
Because I run my business, so
right? Do you have a lunch hour? So if you
I mean,
so if
yeah,
you made 1 call at the beginning of the day, maybe 2 or 3 calls over lunch and a couple after work. They don't all have to
yeah,
be at the same time,
correct.
right? But if you have a number in mind, or the other option could be, what if you put them in the weekend? So maybe you divide that number by 7 and you do
Yes.
some on the weekend. Or you divide it in half and do half on the weekend and the other half throughout the week.
Yeah, that yeah.
Right? Spread it out differently.
Yeah.
Potentially. I know there's an agent that I know here in our office that does her calls in the carpool line while she's waiting for her kids. She literally she's got her laptop in her car, and she goes early on purpose. So she's in line a half hour, 45 minutes or whatever early, because it's quiet, because she's by herself in her car. There's no other distractions because you're in your car. What else are you gonna do, right? And that's where she does her lead generation calls, is during carpool pickup in the school line, because it's easier to stay focused. And there's a time you have to stop, because the time you have to stop is the kid gets in the car. So she has to accomplish that goal in that amount of time. And so she becomes a much more efficient phone call person in that time slot. So how do you get permission if you've never met them and you obtain them from a farm list? So you call them and get permission. You start with the phone call or the contact of the original conversation and try to get them to give you permission. All right. Smart plans are a huge way there are smart plans that you can look up for your 36 touches, that you can do that. All right. Any ahas or thoughts for today? On page 12.9, there's a whole section for you to be able to write some of those ahas and thoughts down, because just like anything else, when you write it down, it solidifies it in your head. Anyone want to share any ahas for today that they maybe would like to share with the class?
It's one thing to have it in your head, but to really just start writing it down, it's like, okay, how descriptive do I have to be? Just how you were like, well, what's kayaking with Keisha? And it's like, okay, let me go ahead on and break that down. It's like, what are my bullet points? And that's what's going to push me over to feel comfortable with doing whatever I need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because when you and when you have a plan and you have a schedule ahead of time, it's less intimidating to pick up the phone and make the phone call, or it's less intimidating to make the email if you have that plan, right? So when you have a plan on paper, it's less intimidating to actually put the event into the process. And the lovely, wonderful, great, amazing thing about an event is that you should have at least 5 touches per event. Because you get the save the date, you get the hey, here's your invitation, RSVP, you get the reminder, you get the actual event, and then you get the follow-up from the event. You get 5 touches per event, minimum. Right? So if you schedule it out and you plan it accordingly, your events can do half of your 36 touches all by themselves without even trying hard. So those are wonderful things to have. Any other ahas for the day? I know I talk a lot and I throw a lot of information out there. So I do want to send you, so your success system, everybody should be working on their success systems, yes, and tracking it and figuring it out. I am going to switch over to my, because I have another little fun thing that I have gifted to my agents to use, simply for the daily success system. In case you haven't noticed, I'm a visual person. I like visual, pretty things. So this is kind of a daily success system sheet that I'm also going to have sent over in the email with all the PDFs. It's got your daily success system. So it's like your 10 phone calls. So as you go with the date, you just cross them off. I had my 10 conversations. I had my 10 database entries. I had my 10 snail mails, your social medias. Enrichments. I don't know how much you've talked about those. I know those get glossed over a lot. Does everybody know what the enrichments are? So the
No.
enrichments are if you're reading a book by Gary Keller, or you're doing something else, or attending a different class outside of Ignite. Those could be enrichments that you're doing to enrich your business. However, it's not necessarily part of Ignite, but it's also a business related enrichment. So it could be a book, it could be a class, it could be a research something, a plan. You created your 36 touch. That would be an enrichment, right? You did the homework. That's an enrichment to your business, and then I always like to, because I'm a reward-based person, what is it that I'm going to reward myself when I cross all of the things off and I have done all of the daily success system? I'm going to go to Dairy Queen and get an ice cream, or I'm going to go get my nails done, or I'm going to, watch my favorite show on TV. What am I going to do when I accomplish my goal? Right? So I always like to write it down so that I have something to look forward to. So I'm going to have this sent over to you as well so that you have that for your daily success system. If you want to use it, great. If you don't, that's fine. It's up to you. But I think that's pretty much what I've got. Have they been having you do the, oh, don't forget about the no call list. Warning, don't do that. Bad, 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 get fined, blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. Bad news. Kind of another quote, doesn't say who it's from, but I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in a relationship with me. This is that mindset piece. Have that in your brain when you're making those phone calls, when you're having those conversations and emails and social media interactions, right? You are coming from contribution to provide value to them. You're not just a salesperson. You are someone who has valuable information that they can use and make their life better. So keep that so that they are happy to be in a relationship with you. Obviously we're not doing the role play. Does everybody know that the conversations part of it is in the back of your participant guide? In case you didn't know, there is a whole script book in the back of your participant guide or in the end. So after you get through session 20, there is a whole nother section called conversations, and there's some scripts in there for you. So if you aren't doing any role playing or whatever, they're in there for you to utilize. Talks about the forward conversations in those. So you check those out and see how those are. Are you guys doing the QR code things and the feedback stuff? All right, well, there's a QR code if you wanted to give me some feedback. I would love that. I don't know where it goes to. It goes to KW somewhere. I am going to put my email address and my phone number in the chat if you would ever like to reach out or have a conversation about any of the things that we talked about. I don't know who's going to family reunion or not, but I am. And so if you're there and you want to connect, let me know. So there's my information. And you can do that. Or if you want to send me an email and you don't want to wait until the end of the week when they are sending out all the PDFs, if you send me an email directly, I will send them directly back to you so that you don't have to wait for the email to come out from Ignite After Dark. It'll probably be morning before I send it though, because it's 10 o'clock in my time zone. So, but I will send them tomorrow. All right, everybody's got the QR code. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to look at all your lovely faces. Does anybody have any additional questions, thoughts, comments, things that they would like to ask before I let you go for the evening? I feel like I raced through everything and talked really, really fast.
You did amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was nice. You kept it really simple. So great energy for it being at this late in the evening. So thank you.
No worries. Thank you. I'm glad.
Great job, Misty. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you all and the feedback. I
Thank you.
you learned a few things. And if you need anything, like I said, you've got my email and my phone number, so write it down, copy it, take a picture, whatever you want to do. Connect with me on Facebook. I pretty much connect with pretty much anybody that says they're a real estate agent. I will friend with you anytime. But other than that, I think I am done for the evening if you don't have anything for me. So I'm going to stop recording and say see you later and have a great evening. And I wish you all the absolute best in your business.
Thank you.
Thank you.